Hey there, soccer freaks. This is ATL On Fire, the podcast where we talk all things Atlanta United Football Club. So sit back, buckle up, enjoy. Which gets to my next point, which is one of our big problems, which is our 9 right now. One of the most frustrating things, and actually one of my problems with Heinze right now is why the hell we keep trotting out Cubo Torres. I truly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, like I think you could go get a Sunday pub player right now that is some stud. I mean, of course, Jackson.
Mikey Dobbs, if you will.
I know, please. There, you know what I mean? There are some great players that are out there that have a lot more to offer instead of just being dead space out there, which is really all Cubo Torres is at this point, because he's not making any sort of dynamic runs that put any pressure on the, like, his primary goal is to score goals, right? And even in the last game, sure, he got back and made some tackles. Great. I don't give a shit about that. I want some goals. He's had way too many opportunities to get on the end of some balls at this point. And he's washed up and done at this point. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be this miraculous Cubo Torres of 2013 or whenever he was supposedly a great goal scorer. I never saw it.
I happen to agree with you. I think that Cubo Torres, he's lost that half quickness step that, he might have had that is really necessary to score. And in that role, you don't have it and coming back. I guess in fairness to Atlanta United, you would say, look, the continuity that they were supposed to build on was bringing back Josef Martinez and signing him to a long contract. So he was supposed to be that continuity, the veteran player and the goal scorer combined, So, that went up on the field in Nashville, the beginning of the pandemic last year. But
yeah, and so supposedly through this summer transfer window rumor, and I'm going a little off script, I'll get to my third point here in a second, but there is rumors that there's a young Argentinian player named Thiago Almada, I think is his name, and he plays for Velez or something like that down in Argentina, and he got some of his first opportunities when he was coached by Heinze. He's evidently a stud. It would be a bit of a snafu if we were able to sign him. But there's a little bit of a rumor he's on our target list as a striker. I think he's 20 years old. It would be a huge signing. We'd have to figure out how to create a DP spot, I assume, by buying down, I guess at this point, Alan Franco, whoever our designated players with all the movement to bring somebody in like that. But I don't know that they'll do that, even though I think it's a smart move with Josef Martinez's knee being uncertain. But Josef also scored a great goal down in the Copa America that got taken back. So fans, some upside there with Josef, even though he got COVID-19 and wasn't able to play a couple games. Long story, but
you talk about adding insult to injury, right? Yeah. Josef Martinez coming back, goes to the South American Championships and gets COVID.
Yeah. And he was vaccinated too, right? So
I don't know. I mean, is that true?
Well, they claimed everybody in the Atlanta United team was 100% vaccinated. So I'm assuming, yeah.
I mean, he was asymptomatic.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, maybe that's consistent. Yeah. So, but what I would say is, okay, you talk about designated players, right? But what I would throw back to you is, you talked at the beginning, you set it up like, okay, we have a lot of talent and whatever, but the youth and the lack of leadership is really hurting us. But, the guy who is maybe the question mark in that kind of analysis would be Marcelino Moreno, who's a little bit older, supposed to be a designated player. Yeah, 25 or 26. So what do you think of his performances?
I certainly expect more from him, but just like Barco, I feel like there is something missing with our style of play that is not tapping into the potential, that both Moreno and Barco can bring to any squad. All these people on social media that are talking about getting rid of Barco, what do you want? I mean, in terms of talent to replace him, because
Mhm.
you better take a step back and realize that this kid, if you're tuning into the Argentinian first side 3 years from now, there's a good chance. I'm not saying nothing's a given here, but there's a good chance Barco might be a starter on the Argentinian national team. And so if that's the case, if he's not good enough to fricking start for Atlanta United, then you need to get your head out of your ass. And that's how I feel about it right now with all these social media people talking about we got to get rid of him. I don't know that I have the answer, but I'm frustrated with your question around Moreno, who, by the way, I like because he gives 100%. He, even when he's not getting the calls, he just kind of puts his head down and goes back to work. I've said that a million times in the podcast. And he's
Mhm.
also a guy that, in certain moments is one of our big creators in terms of trying to break down the defense or putting in a good cross. Um, so much more potential, but yeah, definitely a little disappointed. But I
I
think
have felt
it's a
in the
bigger
last,
problem.
yeah, I have felt in the last couple of games that he's finally started to look a little bit more like on the front foot, a little more
Yeah,
aggressive. I thought he was being a little overly cautious in the early going. Times content to pass the ball on when we really needed him to take on a player or to try to create something. That being said, and the same goes for Barco, both of those players are creating certain things, but without a thrust to be the fulcrum of that creation, then a lot of it goes for nothing, right?
yeah,
And one thing is the kind of player you expect Moreno or Barco to be. If you expect them to be the primary goal scorer, which is sort of what maybe you would have to be right now, then I think that
yeah.
we're in for a long haul.
Well, I think I
Um,
would expect Barco to be more of a goal scorer on the sheet, primarily because of his free kicks. And I actually have liked Barco's free kicks yet again because he puts them on frame.
mhm.
And there's been a little bit of lack of power with some of that that's probably prevented them from going in. And some of his shots have been against some really good goalkeepers in the MLS too. And so
Mm-hmm.
uh, I feel like I like what I'm seeing from set pieces from Barco, both from crosses in and shots on frame. Marcelino Moreno, I agree. I think I don't think I'm expecting a lot of goals from him as being a primary goal scorer. He was not a big goal scorer in his last club in Argentina either, so I don't think that's what we were expecting. We were expecting him to be able to break players down and get past people, and so I definitely want to see more of that from him.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about Moreno, even Barco, right? Heinze has really liked the inverted wingers, and I have felt at times when they've been trying to be most creative, Moreno and Barco, been coming inside and they've been running a little bit into traffic. Particularly without the little thrust run. If they're cutting inside, and you have a Josef Martinez who's playing on the front foot and making the little dart run inside, then they have an option. But if it's Cubo Torres who's much more stationary in that moment, then defenders can just come right off of Cubo Torres, and they end up, even if Barco or Moreno beats their guy, the second guy is always there.
Yeah.
So, I think that's difficult with the way they're playing cutting in. The one thing I will say is, the way we have been able to score is off free kicks. We've had a number of pretty good looking corners and set pieces that we've scored, or even in the last game, the horrific 0-0 draw, right? We hit the post pretty late on what could have been an easy goal, right?
Yeah. I mean, give it up to Brooks Lennon. I think both the goals against Philadelphia, right, were crosses from him.
Right. Right.
One that was a clear own goal against Shevchenko, I think, or no, what's the guy's name from Philadelphia? Anyway, their striker ended up having to go off his head and went in the side netting, and then the next cross that was a corner kick, walks
Yeah.
went up, headed it, went off the shoulder, a part of the defender's body, but it still was walks effort to get in there and get up for it, and both great crosses to your point.
I don't know how to ever pronounce his name. It's Brisbilko.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyway, yeah. But yeah, I mean, the set pieces have looked pretty good. But on the flip side of that, and what I want to come back to, I think the point I want to make is, stepping back from the New York City and the Red Bull games, 2 times in a row we have a 2-goal lead in the 80th minute, 75th, 80th minute, and twice we come out with a draw, right? So what do you think of that?
There's always bigger issues when you give up a lead like that, right? But the Philadelphia game, I went back and watched it because I was curious of like, how did we let this lead go in the last 15 minutes? And particularly that last goal. I'm just going to go in on that one because I watched it over and over again.
You mean the absolute screamer?
It literally the not a screamer. I mean, it will go down as one of the best goals in the MLS, not only this season, but maybe of all time.
Absolute cannon.
And I looked at it and I tried to assess could anyone have really realistically stepped on him faster to close it? And the answer is not. They shouldn't have. I mean, he was not in a dangerous place when he picked up the ball. He was way far away from the goal, and it was a 1 in a million chance that he was going to be able to shoot from where he did to make that goal, especially with Brad Guzan in goal. He's got big paws.
Yep.
And, by the time that he shot it, people were closing him, right? So had he made it another 5 yards, he was going to get closed down. Yep. And, sometimes you just got to tip your hat. I know that's shitty. I think you don't let that happen by winning the game earlier. But I honestly felt like the Philadelphia 2-2 result was very fair because early on in that Philadelphia game, they had plenty of chances they could have finished. Sure. And they didn't. And so for them to get lucky at the end like that, that's how it pans out for me. So I look at it on the front end and be like, damn, we got really lucky. The fact that they didn't score some sitters, frankly, in the first 20 minutes of that game, there was a couple that came right across the front of the box and they just missed them. And so the fact that this guy scores one of the best goals I think I've seen, not only in the MLS, but in soccer in the last 5 years, the thing hit the upper 90, bounced in. It went in on the first bounce down, came up, hit the crossbar again, bounced in again, up, hit the crossbar again, and then down. I mean, what was that? I mean, I've never seen that before ever in my life. He hit the crossbar twice on a double bounce that hit the upper 90. I mean,
from like 30 yards too.
That guy, whoever he is, he should have just he should do a walk-off and never come back and play soccer again.
Yeah, he's a center back too, right? Never shoots. No, but here's the thing, right? Both games, right? Nashville, Philadelphia, 2-goal lead, 75th minute. Right. And in both games, Heinze chooses to bring on an extra defender, which I'm not necessarily going to critique. But in both cases, he brings on a defender for a forward. We lose the attacking momentum. We give up 2 goals. Right. If you contrast that, for example, with Tata, one of the things that happened a lot, people think that we were scoring 3 goals, for fun. But even when we scored 3 goals under Tata, a lot of times the third goal came in the 90th minute, right? And he was famous for bringing on an attacker, at the 85th or 90th minute, when we were up 2-1 or 2-0.
We don't have one.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. So there's the question mark is that Heinze as a defensive coach and he stepped on the brake too early and cost us the game, or does he not even have a choice? And so you have as a coach 2 options there: go for blood and try to score the third goal, or shut it down. And obviously he chose to shut it down, but does he have a choice in the future when, let's say, Martinez is 100% in full goal scoring glory? Would he choose to do that or not?
Yeah, and I mean, again, to me, it goes to the larger equation, which is we should have been down 2-0 in the first half against Philadelphia.
Yeah, so, fair.
I'm just looking at it like, we need to be scoring more goals if we're going to overcome like that. That's a problem. Like our biggest problem is goal scoring right now. I don't feel like when I look at these sheets, like we're not giving up a whole lot of goals, and that's why we have probably so many ties as well. We're probably pretty decent on the defensive side of the ball right now, and I think we'll only get stronger. We have less injuries on that side of the ball right now. We are definitely struggling with offensive midfielders. With the recent injury of Ibarra, I'm definitely concerned. Uh, he seemed like he was finding his way and making a
Yeah, it was
difference.
playing better. Yeah.
Eric Lopez, I still have, feel like there's some promise there.